2, 3. Hello, everybody. I am here with the wonderful Yonina Lermer. Her Instagram account is Kid Koach, or it could be read as Kid Coach, which I first saw it as. And immediately when I saw this account, I knew there was something to it. I know Yonina from my children's school. Yonina is a literacy coach, a teacher mentor, a teacher first and foremost. And her energy is just infectious. Like, this woman, I don't know where you get your energy from, but please teach us. Anyway, Yonina, go ahead. Tell us what you are, who you are, and what you do.
So I'll tell you, first of all, that when I made the Instagram account, I had intended for Kid Coach, and I thought it was like cute that I was spelling it with a K, like Kidkoa. And then so many people were like, wow, that was great, like Kid Koach. And I was like, of course,
right.
I
you can see it two ways.
Thought of it, so I guess it was really, perfect that happened. But
exactly.
I'm really excited to talk to you. I have to tell you that it took me a while. I didn't realize you were a parent in the school. I just, cause I don't know, I liked following you. I was like listening. And then I think someone told me and I was like, get out, who's her kid? Where have I been? Right. So I guess it was just like a nice feeling to know that you were part of my community already,
Yeah.
So I don't know. So that was cute, but I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about whatever it is that you think I have to offer, or whatever it is you think that I don't know.
So yes, you know what? First and foremost, I want to talk to you about your energy and your vitality and your passion for, I think, motivating children and motivating teachers, motivating adults. Where do you get your passion from and your energy from, and how do you instill that in the people you work with?
Okay. Such a layered question, and if I go off on 100,000, just remind me to come back to the question.
Yeah, don't worry. I interrupt a
lot. So much to say. I mean, I think number one, it's important to recognize that I am not always, I do have my moments, where I'm not on. People love to ask me that question, and I'm like, sometimes I'm not, and that's okay. I think that from very early on, I knew I wanted to be a teacher because I wanted to be a comedian. I wanted to act. I wanted to be on like Friends. I wanted to be on a sitcom. And I was like, all right, let me ask my parents. And they were like, no. And I was like, no, let me just take a local acting class. There was some theater nearby. And my parents were like, no. So that got shut down pretty quickly. Oh my gosh, that's all I wanted to do. I feed off of a crowd. One-on-one, I find much harder for myself. Sometimes when I'm talking to just adults, I'm much better with kids. But when I'm with an adult one-on-one, I'm like, what do I say? Do I sound stupid? I get very nervous. I feed off of a crowd, and I love the response.
So you're definitely an extrovert.
I'm a weird, I think, mixture of both, because I think sometimes I want to be an introvert and sometimes I want to be an extrovert. And I think that it depends on the environment. I've been in certain environments where the people around me just bring out the enthusiasm. And I've been in similar environments, very similar, but I didn't, I don't know what the word is. It just didn't get me to that point. So I think that I would definitely describe myself as someone who, is lively and exciting, but I think that I feed off of other people. I'm a collaborator. I need the other people around me to get me going. I have good ideas, but only when I'm part of a crowd, and I've had experiences teaching I didn't always teach, in Har Torah, and it was a problem. I saw very quickly, I started to learn about myself that I am someone who needs other people. But like I said, with a mix, I need time alone to process and to reflect and to think back on what I heard. I need that alone time where it's quiet, where I quiet my mind and have that space. And then I can always go back to my collaborators. So, naturally, as a young kid, I was like, well, my teachers are funny and they get up there and, that must be a good thing for me. And interestingly, So I wanted to be like a Judaic studies teacher, like I thought I was gonna I used to, like everybody, set up my dolls and like teach all kinds of things about the holidays. And when I was in college, so it came time to choose my major, right? I was like enrolling, and my dad actually, he retired a few years ago, but he was the dean of the Azrieli Graduate School of Education at YU. So,
Interesting.
he had a little experience with like stuff like this. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to major in Judaic studies, because like I'm going to teach Judaic studies. I'm going to major. This is going to be great. This is going to be great. Like everything, I'm always like, I feel like I always know the answer, which
Right.
sometimes is my weakness. But, and he asked me a question. Like, my dad's great like that. Like, he says like one sentence and it like blows my mind. And he was like, that's great. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. But he was like, you want to be a teacher. You want to learn how to be a great teacher. You want to be an awesome teacher. Don't you think you should learn how to be a teacher? And I was like, wait, what do you mean? He was like, you're going to major in Judaic studies. That's fantastic. You're going to learn lots of Judaic studies. But if you major in education, you're going to learn how to work with a curriculum. You're going to learn how to deal with administration. You're going to learn how to communicate with parents. Wouldn't it make sense to learn how to be a teacher? Which, of course, in hindsight, I'm like, duh. I don't know why I didn't think of that. So
Right.
my like path got a little altered, and I fell in love with teaching kids how to read and write. What it was a major that had nothing to do with Judaic studies, and the professors that I had were phenomenal. I'm still to this day very close with one of my professors. He's just one of my mentors. I talk to him on a weekly basis. The schools that I student taught in were, you don't get experiences like that. I was placed in great places, so I think that, like, kind of coming back to your original question, following my love, following my passion is what keeps me enthusiastic, because it's where I want to be, and
Mhm.
we can only be enthusiastic about the things and the places that we want to be in. Otherwise, no, why would I care?
Right. What would you say to those people who don't know what their passions are and they don't know where
Mm.
they want to be? And
Oh
I'm
my
sure
God.
you experience a lot of people who
Uh,
had that.
yeah, as a teacher mentor, that was like one of the best things that I really did, was become this mentor. And I did like a 2-year training program. And one of the things they taught us was how to listen, which also, like, none of the things I'm going to tell you tonight, by the way, are like so like earth shattering or like groundbreaking, but they're things that they're very simple. And I don't know if we like spend enough time thinking about it. And I came in there, I was like, I'm the best teacher, like I'm gonna be the best mentor. And right away they were like, mentoring is not telling a teacher how you would have done it. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And like majority of the first year of the training was how to listen and respond in a way that forces the person to listen to themselves. Like you kind
Wow.
of stay out of it for a long time.
Can you say that again? I love that line.
You're right. It's interesting, right?
How to
It's
listen to someone.
to help them listen to themselves. So,
Mm,
there was like a few wisecracks in my cohort that they were like, oh, it sounds like therapy. And I was like, cause it is, like we're being little mini therapists. That's what we're trying to help them do. We're specific. We're not like, hey, talk about your life. Although as a mentor, when I develop these relationships, I do learn, because things are intertwined. What's going on at work sometimes is because of at home. There's a lot going on.
mhm.
Um,
Wow.
when you ask me, like, what motivates people, or what if they don't know what they're motivated in, there's so many people that I've met that, are trying so hard, let's say, at this particular job. And sometimes at the end of the year, we'll say, is this for you?
Hmm.
Is this where you want to be? Is this your it? People love to say, oh, teachers, like, they just have to have it. Like, you're a good teacher if you have it. Like, those are the ones that are great. The question is, like, what is it? And if someone doesn't have it, so like it's over.
Mhm.
I think that every person is capable of finding their it, right? As long as they take the time to find it, right?
Right. And
So
not
I've had,
just right.
yeah, and I've had teachers and I've seen them leave the school and go to a different school and be very successful. I've had teachers I've worked with who left the school and changed professions because it just
Wow.
wasn't for them. And I've had teachers that I've worked with who have done phenomenally, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I don't know if all those, I can't say, well, that person worked harder and that person didn't work. You know, I have opinions about that, you know? That's like
Mm-hmm.
another question. But what is your it? So that is your question. I guess what I did was I developed your question, right? Where is my it? Because we all have an it, but where is mine and how do I find it? You
Mm-hmm.
know? Um, and
Wow.
I think, you know, I think that for me, I think I thought I knew a lot of answers, you know, when I started mentoring. And what I've learned from working with people is that I so don't. And I think that over the past few years, I've done a lot of my own self-reflection because I questioned a lot, like, is this my it? Do I want a different it? Should I try a new it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll tell you a few things. I'm a
Yeah, please.
bookworm. I'm a bookworm. I love to read. In the past few years, I've gotten very into reading. I try to like eat up anything I can find. I have a fantastic therapist who always recommends me like the best books. So it's nice when you have like a friend, you know, who can like feed into your bookworm stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I recently started, oh, I think I told you about him to start following him.
Yes,
This guy,
yes.
John Acuff. So he writes I recommend him. So he has tons of books. He's great. And one of the books I just read by him is called Start. It's called Start, right? Like I want to start. I want to be awesome. I don't want to just be average. So like, what do I do? Where do I start? You know, which is,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is what I think is what you're asking, right?
Yeah, yeah. How do people find that?
How do you
You just have
find
to
it?
start. You just have to
How
start
do you
something.
start?
Right.
How do you start? Yeah. So I could tell you what I took away from it. I recommend to everybody that they should read it because there's so much in there, and I can only give you a little snippet. But what I took away from myself was, number one, something that everybody knows, but we always have to say it, is that nothing is instant. That's like the classic like dieting, right? Like, you're not going to see results right away. Okay, fine. But do we mentally really accept that? I know I'm not going to see, but listen, when you get on the scale 6 weeks later and like you still don't see results, you're not like, oh, I know it's not it. You're like, darn it, I haven't eaten, it's very upsetting. So I think mentally you have to really accept that it's not instant. The second thing that I loved that he said was that you're
Mm-hmm.
not too late. So often,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, right? Like how many times have we been
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, all right, well, whatever. If I would have started like a month ago, it would have been different.
Right.
Now I'm not going to do that now because you know how that we are always telling ourselves that it's too late or that it will be too late or someone will tell us that why didn't we?
Or I shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? It's not too late. It really, it doesn't matter. If there's a certain passion or a certain it that all of a sudden takes you, you're not too late at all.
Right.
Um,
I heard Vera Wang actually. She started her wedding dress line at the age of like 45,
yeah,
or
there's
like
like tons. Yeah.
yeah,
J.K. Rowling, right? Like, oh,
yeah,
back in the
exactly.
90s, she wrote. It's just we're never too late. And again, I'm not telling you anything earth-shattering, but we all are like, yeah, but we have to really think about it, and we have to accept, okay, it's not too late, and I have to be patient. It's not going to come instantly.
I
For
love
people
that.
like me, I don't know if not everyone's like this, but we tell ourselves it has to be perfect. It's too late because if I did it now, it wouldn't be perfect, and I'm not going to do it unless it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Countless times that has stopped me from doing things because I'm like, if either I do it or it's amazing or I don't do it at all.
Yeah,
What a
yeah.
missed opportunity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So sad. How much
And
has gone by that we told ourselves, oh well, it's too late and it's not perfect. And the last thing that speaks to me so loudly is that, he says it so beautifully. I really recommend the book. Is that fear?
mm-hmm.
wants you to feel isolated. Fear wants you to be alone and wants to convince you that, like, man, yeah, no one else has this problem. Like, you should just, you should give up.
Yeah.
And so we need to share the voices in our head, because once they're out and once they're part of a community, then it's like, oh, you have those feelings. Oh, I guess it isn't so scary. I guess it isn't too late. So those voices, they have to be shared.
Yeah. Shared with either a professional or shared with someone you trust or shared with people.
Shared somewhere.
Shared somewhere. Wow. I love
They got
that.
to be shared, and that's a good mental place to be if you're looking to start a journey.
Mm-hmm. So, what parts of your personal life, because you mentioned that you did a lot of self-reflection, that this didn't just come, naturally, or it doesn't just apply to the workplace.
Yeah.
Are you like, can you share some parts of your personal life that,
Sure. I will start off by saying that for a long time, I kept my journey to myself, because kind of like those voices, I was like, ugh, like this, no one wants to hear this. Like, this is my issue. This is my problem.
right?
And the more I just started talking to people, they were like, no, actually, we would love to hear like what's going on. So it's like a newish thing that I've been sharing it more. I've been sharing it more on my Instagram account, and it has been difficult for me, but I am happy to share it. I had like some big life moments, life events. And when those big life-changing events happen to you, you're forced to take your ego, like cut it up, throw it down, and step on it. And I think I really did have a big ego. I really do. I think that I thought I was like making it.
Hmm.
And I was forced to really realize that there was a lot to look at. There was a lot that I just was ignoring. And, a little bit with what's going on in the world, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, okay, pandemic, like this is forcing all you guys to go through what I went through. I'm really glad that you guys are being reflective, because that's what I've been doing for the past year or two. I and you actually asked me this, about just my life and relationships and the people around me. I think that I spent so much time really giving, the mentoring and friends calling me my kids, and making sure that I was there for everybody, and that I always had the answers, and that I sounded like I knew the answer, and that I had it all made in the shade, and I was like so wildly successful that I stopped studying myself. I did not get to know me and the things that work for me, the things that don't work for me. I was completely ignoring them, which is a huge problem. So the relationships in my life were not balanced. Relationships are meant to be fostered. They were only being fostered one way. Like, whoever I was helping was really, getting this great relationship. And I was loving it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Great. But I ended up missing so many messages that were coming from me, that myself was trying to tell myself, which is why when life throws you a curveball, all of a sudden you're like, real, well, I would hope, not everyone maybe is big enough or ready to say, oh my gosh, like, why did this happen? What's going on? Whoa. And I missed it. I missed so many messages from myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to miss those messages. It's
You are
important.
missing those messages because you are too focused on chasing this perfection or this illusion of like, I have all the answers. I know what's right. I'm like the person to go to. Like, you're coming to me with your problem, so I should not have any problems.
You know what? It's like almost like and I say this because it took me a long time to be able to say this like publicly, because it's almost like not embarrassing, but it's like, you really have to humble yourself. It was all about like the glitzy, the outside. You know, like I didn't allow myself to have trouble with things because God forbid, you know, or I had trouble with things, but like that was to myself, and like, you know, and I was working so hard at my outside, you know, my exterior. And I'm not talking about like material things, you know, I'm not talking about like, oh, I wanted a cool car and a nice house and the perfect children. Like, no, I wanted the outside, what I was giving, you know, who I was to other people, the image, let's say, the personality. It was, my ego was like feeding off of it. And so, yeah, no, there was no self-reflection. There was no acknowledging, you know, hey, hey self, like, does this work for you? Did you ask yourself these questions? You're asking great questions to other people. Did you ask this to yourself? And if you did, what are the answers? Are you being true to yourself? Is that, you know, is this what's right for you? Is this not what's right for you? Have you spoken about this to the person? You know, whatever. I'm thinking of like, you know, things that came up, and it was not good. It was really not good. I really missed. I think I missed out on a lot,
Was there like a turning point in your life, or a moment in time when you were like, oh my God, like I'm not listening to myself. Who am I? Am I this person that I am to other people? Or
yeah,
did it just happen gradually? Like,
yeah,
explain that a little bit.
yeah. I'm going to tell you the answer, but then I'm going to backtrack. I will tell you that the time leading up to my divorce was a very difficult time because it was me having a battle with me. I have a fantastic relationship with my ex-husband, and we are both very mature, and we dealt with things in a fantastic way. Really, I thank God.
When did that happen?
Let's say like, you know, this like journey, like 2-3 years ago. It's pretty recent. But the difficulties were with me, because all of a sudden me was starting to talk and say things, and I had to listen. You know, I was forced in working with him and figuring out, you know, what we wanted to do and if this was the best decision for us. I had to listen to myself. There was no like other people to like be like, oh good, I'm glad I'm helping you. Oh great, that's wonderful. Let's work on your this. It was, now it's time to work on you. What? You know, like I have to work on myself. Oh my God, what do I work? I can't believe. And things started coming up that I was shocked to learn about myself. And I started like writing them out, and I started writing my journey. I started this like little blog last year, not because I want people to read it, because I needed it to go somewhere. You know, I had to get it out. And I read, it's funny, I'm like, I didn't realize, if you should see where I'm sitting, I'm like surrounded by books.
That's me too.
Yeah, like sometimes I'm like moving things out of the way to like go to sleep. But I started reading a book called Present Over Perfect by an author. I'm upset, like she's, oh my gosh, she is my, like, I hope I can meet her one day, you know, like that kind
Who
of
is
like
it by?
So her name is Shauna, Shauna, Shauna Niequist, which is like, I'll spell it for you, Niequist. And also another great book recommendation that was given to me. She's like a really religious, like I think Catholic. I think it's Catholic, which was great because I was like, oh, I'm also like a really religious something else. But you know, we shared that value, that appreciation, and she really talks about discovering that it's about being present. And that became my goal. My goal became, okay, in this new me, in this new life, okay, you know, fine, I got divorced, it's done, okay, I'm moving on. So I'm moving on, but I'm moving on with a lesson, and I'm moving on with a goal. I was like, I'm not letting myself come out of this unless I can identify what it is that I want to fix in myself. And that was the idea of being present. You know, I needed to first understand what the word present means. How to be present is not a very easy thing to do, but that's been my journey, and it's been a great journey because I've been able to retrieve and find those messages that I had long missed, and I started using them to make my decisions, right? Instead of the decisions being driven by, oh, well, this is good because people will really need that help, and like, oh, this will be very good for people, or this, it's not about the people anymore. It's about being present. It's not about them or me, or it's about being present, about being in the moment and taking it in, you know, and listening, like I said with the mentoring, listening to myself and to the people around me. It's a very challenging thing, and she's a fantastic, and as a literacy person, you know, I like love the writing of it.
Mm-hmm.
She has like a gift really for words, and I guess if I had to pass on like one of my favorite quotes from her, of course it's like not from that book, it's from another book because I've read everything, but she says that we never arrive. We never like say, oh, you know, great, did what I need to do, I'm here. We don't arrive, but we can become. And the way that we become is by taking very small steps.
Mm-hmm.
And we're constantly becoming. And the journey is constantly going. And we don't arrive. So stop your ferocious planning and stop thinking like you have it all figured out. Stop the perfection, be present, and just become. Look for ways to keep becoming. And I love that language.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, just her wording is beautiful.
It reminds me of something else I read. I don't remember who the author was, but I read somewhere where like the moment you arrive somewhere is when the moment when it dies.
Over.
Like
Yeah.
it's over.
Yeah.
It's like everything is about like looking forward to that thing that you want, whether it's a job or the marriage or
Yeah.
whatever it is, whatever dream you have. And then once you have it, it's like, okay, now what? Now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a way, like, how do we balance? I mean, I don't know if you know the answer to this. It's just, I'm just throwing it out there, but how do we balance achieving our goals, but maintaining that I need to be present at the same time? So like, you know, those people who are just goal oriented and they're like, goal, 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 goal. Oh, I just lost weight. Okay, now like, and they just keep running and running and running and running. And at the end of the day, they're not happy when they achieved all these goals.
Right.
So
well,
do you, like, yeah.
That's a hard question, right? Especially when you're dealing with certain personalities, right? Like a person like you just said, who just wants to, at the end of the day, go to sleep and be like, check, 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 check. Yes, yes,
Right.
yes, yes. You know? So, you know, someone actually, I feel so, I'm like laughing at what I'm saying because I'm like, wow, I really do read a lot because I keep like quoting books. I
Love it.
I didn't realize it. I once read something actually about money, right? Like, you know, like it was like a businessy kind of a thing. It was not like all beautiful, like what we're talking about here, and like, you know, and just like trying to help ourselves. It was about money. And the idea behind it was that people get a lot of anxiety about money, right? Like when I'm spending it, if I'm spending too much, how I spend it. And so the author kind of says that before you do anything, what are your values? You know, because we all have different values. You have to figure out what your values are. And so when it comes time to spending, right, because he was talking about money, is the purchase that you're making connected to your values? So, you know, his example was, you know, a grandmother booked a cruise for her entire family to Alaska, and like really she's, you know, 56 years old and blew most of her retirement money, right? So we can look at that as being like, whoa, you know, she's still pretty young. She's, you know, in her 50s. And she just used most of her retirement money for that. Wow. And he was saying, well, you know what? Her top value was friends and family and being together. So yeah, that made sense for her. You know, if she would have bought some crazy fancy car, maybe I would have told her, you know, you might want to rethink that purchase. But you should be allowed to say that's okay if it matches my values. And also, if she booked a cruise every week, you know, obviously there's, you know, in moderation. So then I guess I would answer your question by saying that it kind of goes hand in hand, being present and goal oriented. So if I know my values and I know what my goals are, part of being present is saying, wait, I'm going to be present right now. Is this going to get me towards my goal? Is this going to allow me to stay present, or am I totally getting derailed here? Am I missing what's going on? What are the goals that allow me to be present? You know, like, especially during this time, I can tell you that I am always at this pull, like my kids want me and then I have to go with my job. So I'm constantly saying to myself, okay, well, what are my goals? Right? So I can't be with my kids all the time, you know, and I might say, well, I have to be there for my kids, and being present means always being there for my children. But that's not really one of my goals. My goal is to be a great mother, but also to really advance and grow and further myself in the things that interest me. So part of being present is making sure, though, that I say, right now, I don't need to be on my phone. Right now, I need to be with my kids, because I know that that's a value, and it's one that I haven't been so good about, you know. And then sometimes when it's like 4 hours of playing Monopoly, I'm like, you know what, Yonina, you just spent 4 hours of Monopoly. Like, it's okay right now for me to step away. I don't need to feel guilty, because again, part of being present is me saying, I just spent some really nice time with my kids. Yeah, I'm going to go now and take care of the other part of me, because I listened to them. We laughed. This was great. We learned. Now I'm going to, you know, take care of something else.
Wow.
You know?
I feel like sometimes we forget, because in the hustle and bustle of things, and we're so quote unquote busy, and we have to get so many things done, that, you know, our values just like
Yeah.
skip over, and you forget about it.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel like they need to be like plastered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
cliff notes across your home, like,
but
remember.
Listen, you know what, Karen? That's what present means. It's so funny, because like we all think like, oh sure, being present, we all think we always know the definition to everything. That was my downfall. I was like, yeah, I understand, but do we really know what being present means, and do we know how to do it? I don't think I'm even there yet. I think I'm slowly learning, you know, what present means. So part of being present might be, do I review my values? You know, because honestly, I think most of us are very busy. We're on this treadmill of life, and we don't have the time to look at our values. And I know this sounds like very high and lofty and wonderful, and I'm not telling everyone to, you know, sometimes I read these things like, every day wake up and write down the 5 things. You know, I don't know. I don't think that's doable. I think that's, for me at least, I think that's ridiculous. I can't keep to that.
Right.
But being present means that when I go to sleep, or when, you know, once a week or whatever it is, do I stop and just let myself reflect on something, whether it's my values, whether it's what I did this week, whether it's, you know, I noticed that my child smiled when I spoke. We don't slow down. We don't.
Wow. I actually got this advice from someone this morning, because I've been battling a lot of fatigue. I don't know if it's from the quarantine, or I don't know what's going on. And the person told me that I should set aside a big chunk of the day. I mean, not a big chunk, like she said, like even just half an hour of the day without doing anything. Just relax, no reading, no going on your phone, no listening to music, and no like thinking of things in your head. Just try to like unwind every day.
But that's a very hard thing to do.
It is
a very hard thing to do. You know, we say like, it's great advice. I don't disagree, but I think that that's a moment where someone's like, great, how do I do that? Because our minds naturally do that. And so like I've been giving myself little exercises in this idea of being present. You know, I try to say to myself, I posted about this the other day, that my son kept calling me and wanted my attention, and it was, of course, like, you know.
I have to see that post now.
Yeah. And when I finally saw him, he was, you know, was so excited to show me this rainbow. And I said, ooh, like, this is one of those moments. Like, I had to mentally tell myself, oh, this is, you know, like, hey, ding, 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 ding. Like, this is one of those moments. I don't know if I could go into a room and do nothing. But it was like, I don't know, it was maybe like 40 seconds. And I was like, stop thinking about everything right now. Stop.
Wow.
He showed me a rainbow. Okay, on, you know? So, you know,
it's the quality. It's even if it's like 40 seconds, like you said, as opposed to half an hour or an
Yeah.
hour. It's
Yeah.
just about
Yeah.
what you do in those.
Yeah. She says, again, I'm obsessed with Shauna. I call her, she's like my buddy, Shauna.
Shauna.
She said something also that I read once. She said that she was reflecting on herself, and she says, I was breaking my back for work only to find that I had a broken back. Like what came of it? So yeah, trust me, I'm in that boat. Like, I'm trying to make dinner and I'm trying to also help with homework. And then at the end of the day, all I had was, some pots and pans and homework that was completed. I didn't actually achieve those values or goals. I wasn't getting there. I just had a broken back. That's all.
Mm-hmm. But then we also need to get things done too, because
Well, so
right.
yeah, look, I'm not telling you that you shouldn't make dinner.
Yeah, of course.
But like, the idea is, was there a time today when I was able to glean something that wasn't just, the answer to a math question, or
the
what did
to-do
I,
list,
yeah, like what did I say to my, child? Just that moment, that being present, it's very hard. And I'm I don't know, I'm not there yet. I'm still trying to learn. And like I said, I've been using my blog as just a way to like record it for myself, because sometimes I have to go back and reread what I wrote.
Wait, I want to see this blog.
Yeah, I'll 100%.
Yes.
I will share it with you.
I would love that.
And yeah, we have to review. We have to keep going over the things that we learned, and you have to recognize that we learned it. I don't know. I think lately I've been thinking how, like, we hear things so many times, but we don't really hear them.
Right.
And that sounds really cliche. Like,
no, it's true. It's like, oh, I heard this already. Like, I know this.
Right,
I know
right,
this. But do
right.
you really know it?
Right. Like, can you give me, like, if someone, like, I wish I had someone like years ago that would have been like, okay, big shot, like, it. So give me an example.
Mhm.
You know how to listen, you know how to hear. Okay, tell me, what did you do? How'd you listen today? And I would have been like, I wouldn't have had it. I wish I had someone who, like, kind of like kicked me in the tuchus a little bit,
Mhm.
forced me to do that. But
It's funny. It reminds me of like when people listen to a class or or they'll read a book, but they're not reading it for themselves.
yeah,
They're reading it for someone else. Like,
yeah,
you see?
yeah,
Like, parents will read something and be like, you see, it says over here, it
right,
says to respect your
right,
parents.
right, right,
Like,
right,
how often are we listening to a piece of wisdom or even like an inspirational quote and we're thinking actually about ourselves and
right,
not about
right.
someone else that's doing it wrong,
Or even if it's yourself, but we're not like, oh, that was nice. Yeah, oh, I totally agree with that, But
Right.
instead we're like, boy, I'd like to try that. I'm gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. I guess I'm learning more about other people. Ironically, right? I've been working with people for so long, and I just find that this journey in the past few years for me, I'm really learning about human beings more than I ever did. And yeah, my mentoring has totally changed. My relationships have totally changed, and I have very, 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 very close friends that when I talk to them, sometimes I had to say this to them the other day, and I was like, listen, I know that you know me for so long, but I don't want to be that anymore. And I know that's so hard for you because you're right away going to be like, oh, of course, Yonina, that, I'm like, but I'm going to ask you really, really, like, give me almost like a fresh start. And it's been hard for them, because we're so close.
Mm-hmm.
And just the other day, I was talking to these friends, and I was like, no, really, like, I want to try again.
Wow.
It's a hard thing
That's
to do.
beautiful, beautiful. So I see, you're very connected to a lot of different people. Thank God you have your students, you have teachers, you have your own children, you have your friends. How do you, first and foremost, how are you connected to all these types of people? How do you keep that connection and how do you keep these relationships grounded
Yeah,
and
yeah. It's
balancing it all?
Yeah, oh man, it is, yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard because, and I said this before, like, a lot of these relationships are very layered. So, you become very invested in these relationships. Um, you know, a few weeks ago, the principal of the school called me and she was like, I want to do some PD for the teachers. Like, what's something you could do? Like, you come up with an idea. And I gave her some like cutesy name, you know, like I was like, oh, call my session like how to make Zoom fun, or, you know, top 10 ways to make whatever it was. But what I really knew was that whether we're over Zoom or whether we're in school or whether it's good times or bad times, pandemics or whatever, you know, the work that we put into our relationships is always the same. You know, people are looking for this like magic, like app, I don't know, to make Zoom more fun and to get kids more engaged. And yes, you know, more technology is helpful and learning more tools is helpful. But one of the first things I said to the teachers was, if we were in school right now and you were just in your classroom and you were coming to me to, you know, figure out how to make I would give you the same advice. Like nothing has really changed. Yeah, okay, so they're in a computer and we have to deal with some of these things, but relationships are relationships no matter what. So, you know, we have to always be building in these daily habits of connection, right? Um, you know, and I think that that's different for everybody because there are different kind of relationships, and what daily habits of connection looks like is different. So I think that the connections and the relationships I have, I deal with each one of them differently. And there are times when there are certain relationships that either I have to physically say, you know, we need to just pause on this relationship, you know, let's sit on this for a few days, you know, because that's what that relationship needs. And there are other relationships that need to be built constantly, you know. So I think that is so difficult to balance. And as I just told you, I think for many years I was not balancing them well. You know, but now with a lot that I'm learning, I'm seeing that you need to stop, and there it is again, and be present and just say, what's happening with this relationship? Is this a healthy relationship right now? Is it healthy for me? And is it healthy for the other person, for us to continue the way that we are? You know, I work with teachers who I officially, like the school told me to officially mentor. I call them like graduates, you know, because officially in our school, every teacher, which is, honestly, it's an amazing thing. Every teacher, every new teacher gets 2 years of mentoring, where it's like in your schedule and like the, you know, but my graduates, you know, doesn't mean that like the 2 years is over and like, that's it. Like, you know, we don't want to talk anymore. So there's different like levels and, you know, and my kids and my parents and, you know, whoever, friends. So I think it's stopping and just saying, is this a healthy relationship? I think that was also part of my journey. You know, I don't like making it about divorce because I think it applies across the board, you know, and I don't think it's about, you know, divorced people. I think that we always need to question if the relationships in our life are healthy. If they are, great. If they're not, do I want to keep that relationship and I just need to tweak it, or maybe this is just not the right relationship for me? And I think that if we slow down and we're present and we talk to ourselves about those things, then we can balance those relationships in a much better way.
Love that. So I see with all of this, I see a lot of resilience and grit and all of these, you know, positive qualities that someone needs to, you know, go through challenges. How, you know, how does one build that type of resilience?
Yeah,
Is it just life experience, or?
You know, I feel like I like see the world with like a totally new perspective now, and I'm starting to see, I look around me and I see that there are people who they've been beaten down, you know, by whatever it is, and they don't come out of it, you know, and I wonder sometimes if it's because, you know, they're choosing not to come out of it. They'll tell you that, like, you know, it's like we just said before, the voices in your head and it's too late, but it requires you to say to yourself, I need to get out of this. I don't know how, but I'm going to start reaching out. I don't know who to reach out to. Sometimes we don't know, you know, we don't know who to say what, you know, but in some way, shape, or form, I'll Google it. I will ask someone at work. I will talk to the librarian, whoever it is. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to take, kind of like we said before, that first step. I'm going to become, and it's not going to be instant, right? All these things are like totally tied together. And I'll throw another book at you, okay?
Yes.
Another one that I read recently. Remember I was telling you about the Book of Awesome?
Yes,
right?
by Neil Pasricha.
Yeah.
I don't know how you pronounce his name.
It's like
Pasricha.
So he has like a bunch of awesome books. also, like, I get these recommendations. I'm not afraid to say it. Like, I love my therapist. It's like one of the best things I ever did was have one. And oh my gosh, best book recommendations to help me grow. And, and that's kind of an example, by the way. Oh man, the idea of therapy for me, like, I was like, I don't need someone knowing but that was my first step, because I knew something had to change in what was going on. And that was where it was so scary. For another time, that experience was very scary. But it opened my world. It really did.
It's humbling too. It's very humbling.
Yeah. Well, it was really an experience. And also, it's like a little bit like a match. You have to find the right person for you. It's like, it's like a spouse, really. So anyway, so he has another book in the series called You Are Awesome. Okay. And it's a little different from that other book I told you, but he has one section, it like makes me laugh, but it's so true. He talks about how at graduation, someone gets up and is like, seize the day, you're on your way. And we get all like Dr. Seuss, all the places you'll go, carpe diem, and he's like, how come like the next line is never, oh, and by the way, are you ready for all the pain and really, really difficult stuff that comes along with carpe diem, like we're so excited to get started, but are you ready? Are you ready for what's about to come? Because boy, is it going to be really hard. Mm-hmm. So to build resilience, I think first starts really mentally. Is I'm going to take that first step, and a lot of who knows what is going to, and I've been beaten down already, and I don't like the way it feels. So you have to wait for that moment to come. You have to wait for when you are ready to do that. It doesn't happen right away. You have to have some time to just be blah.
Right. Of course.
And then when you're ready, and you're ready for a very difficult journey to climb your way back to the top, and you're ready to reach out, which is not an easy thing to do, and you're ready to humble yourself or whatever it is, that is resilience. And the people who I see or who I read about who are resilient, if you read their stories, their journeys are all very similar. They go through this kind of process. And I think it's what you said before is that, it's like a circle, like there is no arriving. So you're going to start learning, and then after learning, you're going to get better, and then you're going to change things, and then and then you're going to go right back to learning. And that's how you build resilience, as long as you're a lifelong learner, and you're listening to yourself, and you're listening to those messages, and you keep reaching out, you keep talking to people, and you keep taking the painful things that maybe come along. It's hard. Being resilient is, it's
hard.
like,
it's hard work.
Yeah, but you have to want it. You have to want to do it, as with anything. You have to want that and be ready for it. It's much, like the guy John Acuff, like being on the average road is like, that's nice.
You don't bother anyone. You keep everything to yourself, right?
As long as you just don't later, decide, wow, that was silly, but it's never too late, right?
Love that. Wow, you made me think about a lot of things that actually I've been doubting myself with various different things because of all these excuses that you were talking about, that it's too late, or it's not going to happen right away. I have all these images in my head about failure and it's too late and all this stuff, and you really you gave me things to work with.
To get like all schooly on you, one of the things that I teach my fifth graders, I like made up a class. The school lets me, I'm glad that they let me go for it. I made up a class that's kind of all about, we call it science literacy. It's like reading and writing about science, but it's specifically for, inventions and inventing. And I don't know if you've heard of the term design thinking. It's like a buzzword out there.
Heard of it, but I don't know what it's about really.
It's again, I'm not gonna take you all out there, but let's just say, it's people focused problem solving, and their motto is really to fail forward to succeed sooner. That's like one of their big mottos. And I love what I tell my students, the famous example that Thomas Edison tried to, create the light bulb, and it took him like whatever it was, 10,000 tries. And they asked him about it, and he said, no, I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that it doesn't work. And I don't, the spray WD-40, you've heard of that, right? So why is why is it 40? Like what in the world is WD-40? So they tried 39 different like solutions, and the 40th was the one that worked. So
Wow.
they named their product WD-40. You know, the WD is like the like the solution, and 40 to represent that it took them, 40 times. So will you fall down on your road, of resilience? Absolutely. But I think what I've learned is that everything is temporary. We think we're always like stuck, and definitely for me in my life-changing events, someone actually said to me, they were like, oh, don't worry, like you'll get used to your new normal now that you're divorced. And I walked away and I was like, aren't we always getting used to new normals? Like people change, things change. Like I think that there's nothing to do with, that's why I'm saying I don't like talking about like that specifically, because I think that it just applies to everyone and everything. And when we recognize that everything is temporary, and even our kids, they're going to go through phases. It's not, everything is temporary. And sometimes that's a hard concept. I know with some of the teachers I work with, they're like, that's it, I'm ruined. Like it was the worst lesson, and the principal was there and he saw it, like it's temporary. You come back again the next day and you try something new, and it's just got to be patient, and you got to slow down, and you have to know that failing is so awesome and so going to get you to where you want to go. But
wow,
you
I needed to hear this. I think a lot of people need to hear that message, and especially at the time that we're in this,
yeah,
unpredictable time where people are feeling hopeless, and they're feeling hopeless about a lot of different things, their jobs, their health,
yeah,
the future, everything that's going on. And what you just said about how everything is temporary, and there's always things that are going to be changing. There's never going to be like a status quo that things are going to be constant all the time. There's always going to be something that's going to be like ruffling the feathers.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love what you said about failure. How you have to fail.
You got to. That's you got to fail, and we're always adjusting. People I see like on Instagram are like, oh, well, now with our new normal, and I'm like, human beings, that's what they do. They adjust. Mm-hmm. So you'll adjust. I'm not saying it's gonna be easy. Attitude. Yeah. So and again, I can't tell you that I wake up every day and I'm like, this is great, I'll adjust, Yonina. You're so wonderful. You got this. No way. Like there are times when I'm like, how the heck am I gonna do? My principal let me know today we're changing the schedule, and I'm like, oh great. So how am I? But you know what? We're gonna adjust because that's just what we do.
Wow. I love that. We love that.
Yeah.
So what are some of your, actually my son's here, he wants to say hi. Part of the adjustment is trying to get used to kids going to bed past like 8 o'clock.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you is, what are some of your hopes and dreams for the world? As my last question.
Yeah, my hopes and dreams for the world. That's a hard question because it really forces you to think so beyond and outside yourself. And I guess I'll do, and probably if you asked me next year or next month, I would change my answer. But I guess to keep in line with what we're talking about is I'm very scared. This announcement that was made, that religious services can start again and people can go. And there's a part of me that is very scared for us to go back to our synagogues and things like that, because I'm so afraid that all these people who have spent how much time on Instagram being like, yes, now I know, and my children reflect, it's so beautiful. And there's a part of me that's so scared to see what actually happens. Mm-hmm. Are we going to really be more reflective? Are we going to be like, wow, I just spent so much time with my kids and I know them better. Again, we're not perfect people, but there's a part of me that's very nervous to go back to some semblance of life, because it sounds terrible. See, even the optimist, you're telling me, but I have this like part of me that's so scared that people are going to fail me, because
I have that fear too. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you see?
Thank you for sharing that. You see?
So like, I guess like I'm sitting here like, good guys, I'm so glad that you all had this journey like I did. And this was bad. You were hurt. People were thrown down. and I guess my hope and dream is really just to see that the journey continues for people and that they incorporate it in some way. It's, people are going to go back to their normal lives because that's what we do. But I really hope so.
At least after, 2, 3 months, 4 months, however long this is going to be, at least to get something out of this. That it wasn't just for nothing. It wasn't just a waste of time and all these sacrifices that we made.
Yeah, and all the inspiration. I think you posted it. Like, it does get like nauseating sometimes, like all these like inspirational things. And like, look, you want to post inspirational things? That's great. So then when this is all over, so show me.
Right.
Show
Don't
me that,
just talk the talk, walk the walk.
Like let's do it in some way. For everybody, it's going to be different, but that's what I hope.
Yonina, thank you so much. It was
my pleasure.
Such a pleasure to speak to you, for you to share your experiences and to share your wisdom with all of us. And by you just sharing your life wisdom and what you went through in your journey, you are no doubt you're going to help not just one person. You're going to be helping a lot of people.
I hope so. And I hope that I help myself, along that journey too, right?
Oh, and you helped me. I have a lot to think about after this interview. So.
I'm really glad. And you make it easy. It's easy to talk with you,
You're easy to talk to. So can you just tell people where they can find you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. So Kid Coach, like I said, it's like the K kind of
Kid Coach or Kid Coach?
Kid Coach, right. KIDKOACH is, my Instagram handle. I put, because I knew you were going to ask me about the blog, and I'm not, and I want to make this very clear. I'm not like trying to promote my blog is not like trying to promote myself. I don't like, tell people like, read my blog, but it's the kind of thing, like, it's really only for people, like we were saying, who are mentally ready to want to go on that journey. So it's really not for everyone. The link to the blog is in my bio and on my Instagram thing. And if you really want to take the journey, I would read from the beginning, because it has a nice sequence, but it does not have to be read in sequence. I wanted it to be, like, if someone just wants like a nice little thought or whatever, each post can also be read like on its own with something nice to think about. So
I'm gonna check it out. Thank you.
Check that out. Yeah.
Awesome. Yay! Thank you so much, Yonina.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll see you one time in school,
Yes, amen.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Bye.
Bye.